Oh, how sore are you?
I'm sore now. I'm going to be more sore tomorrow.
My butt hurts so bad. We rode our bikes today. We rode BMX today, and took advantage of Plymouth State University being out of school. Campus is like a ghost town, so we were able to ride all the best campus spots without campus police kicking us out. And it's great because there's like nobody around. You're outside, fresh air,
Yep.
get some exercise, riding around. Nobody's around.
It was nice today. So
It was, yeah. So here in New Hampshire, we got snow 2 days ago.
Yep.
Like shoveling snow 2 days ago. We dodged the bullet up here, but just over the Mass border down in Boston got like 3-4 inches of snow.
Yeah, we just got a dusting down in Derry.
Yep,
Just enough to have to clear the truck off.
just enough to be miserable.
Yep.
And today was like 65, I'd say, at the warmest.
Yep.
With the sun out. We drove an hour to the Lebanon, New Hampshire skate park, which is a really cool in-ground skate park, concrete skate park. And we showed up and the place was mobbed. There's like,
I was surprised to see so many like families with little kids there, and
I knew that there was going to be skaters there, just dudes in their 20s, just like, I'm going to go skate. It's a nice day,
Yep.
whatever. And then we show up and there's like, families picnicking, and all their little ones are like, just all the little kids on scooters. The place was mobbed, and we like took like 2 runs and we're like, ugh, this doesn't seem right.
all the
We're outta
kids
here.
riding skateboards on their butts like down through the middle of the park.
Well, especially right now with what's going on. It's like,
Oh yeah.
I don't really feel like being like, yeah, we're outside and it was a breeze, but I mean, there's just so many kids. I mean, it was, even without a pandemic going on, it was too crowded to ride that place.
Yeah, for sure.
But with a pandemic going on, it's like, oh yeah, this is like real weird. We're supposed to be, New Hampshire isn't shelter in place right now, but there's just, it's just weird. There's so many people there. So many. Young kids, old people. There's like old people on like the picnic tables and stuff.
That one dad with the visor you pointed out.
The dad.
The dad.
He was like,
super dad.
I don't know what he was doing, but he was definitely wearing a visor, like a visor. And it looked like one of those visors that has like the fake hair that sticks up out of it, but it wasn't fake hair that was sticking up out of it. It was like, well, it was kind of pulled back a little bit,
Yeah.
but it wasn't the fake. It was like real platinum silver hair. He was the dude that they made those simulation hats.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
But then we went, so we bailed out of Lebanon, headed up north, went to PSU, and put down a good session. I'm hurt, man. I'm hurting. Like couple good bails, landed on my butt real hard a couple times, and just put my butt bone through my butt cheek.
Yep.
And like, it's going to be black and blue for sure. I've done that plenty of times before, back when I was riding full time. It's been a while since and they weren't like bad falls, but I mean, you were filming. I mean, if we're going to have I'm going to have like we took the GoPro, and I'm going to put a little like 1 minute Instagram video together. So you'll probably see it on my Instagram feed. But yeah, I mean, Corey helped film. I got a few clips of Corey too, but I spent some time on the ground. I took a couple like, the roll out of the bail, and just my spine, just the way I like roll, it was a backward somersault roll on the ground, and just the way I rolled my spine right on the pavement, and it just hurt so bad. And then I kept landing on my butt.
Yep.
Like, that hurts.
We had fun though. We had a good day.
Oh, it was awesome. And like that manual to 180 up that ledge, like I don't think I'd ever done that before. And we used to session that ledge all the time back when I could say I was in my prime, I guess. And so I'd never manual to 180'd up that before. And I decided like, I'm going to do it. And and bailed a bunch and didn't think I was going to get it. First try though, like almost did it.
Yeah.
And kind of like half-assed it. Like I got the 180, landed a little under rotated, but if I'd really been on top of it, I could have rolled it out, but I didn't, because I wasn't expecting to get the 180 out the way I did. And then proceeded for like an hour to like get not murdered on it, but yeah, just kind of I had to work for it. So now I'm sore. Really, I'm really sore. But yeah, and then got like a manual down the ledge, turned around, rode up it 180 bar spin. It's a fun spot because the ledge goes up this double set. It's real low at the bottom, so you can get on it pretty easily. Then at the top, there's like a flat part of the ledge that you have to air over, and then there's like a couple feet of grass and then like a curb. So you kind of have to like launch out of it with speed in order to clear the curb. So the manual up that to 180 was really kind of difficult because obviously on the ledge, you don't have much room to carve the manual. It's almost like a straight line manual to 180. I really want to go back and manual to 180 bar spin it, but I'm getting old and my hands aren't as fast as they used to be. The bar spins don't seem as quick as fastest hands in the East.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like that anymore. I was a contender for a while, probably fastest hands in the East on a BMX bike.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and say that because I mean I used to, yeah. Garrett Reynolds came up real fast with quickest hands in the Northeast, but he's like I don't want to say 10 years. He's like 6 years younger than me maybe. Mm-hmm. So when I was 20, you know, he was just kind of coming up, but it's not like that anymore. Every time I throw a bar spin or anything when my hands come off or like a tail whip, everything seems like in slow motion. And I'm like, oh, this is way scarier than it used to be.
Yep.
For those of you watching on YouTube, I am wearing one of my favorite shirts. I'm wearing an In-N-Out Hamburgers pocket tee.
Yes.
Black pocket tee. I ordered this while I was out in Las Vegas at SEMA. We had just eaten In-N-Out. I'll eat In-N-Out every single day when I'm out west if I can. And yes, I'm one of those In-N-Out guys. Yes, Whataburger is good. I won't even go there and argue which is better because they're both good. They're both good. And for those of you in the Pacific Northwest and Seattle, Dick's is also amazing.
Yep.
So, and Corey's had all of those places as well. But In-N-Out is just my jam. It's just when I started traveling to California in 2005 was my first. I went to California in 2004, but it was we came down out of Oregon into Sacramento and then out to Reno and drove home cross country that way. So I didn't ever experience LA or Southern California until 2005, and that was my first exposure to In-N-Out. And I'd heard all about it before we got out there.
Yeah, of course.
And I was hooked. So it's just for me personally, that was like In-N-Out is like that. It holds that spot for me. So we'd eaten that In-N-Out one night during the week in Vegas for SEMA, and we were waiting. We had a reservation at a restaurant with some friends, and we were waiting on the rest of our group to show up, and I ordered it on the In-N-Out web store, like from my phone. I was like, I'm going to order that because I was just browsing. So the one in Vegas that we went to is the one that's off the strip, and right next to it is an actual gift store. It's like a separate building. It's like an In-N-Out gift store, but we were there like super late. It was the Sunday before, so SEMA started on that Tuesday, and I flew in Saturday before, and that Sunday we went to the Vegas Speedway and watched the NHRA Top Fuel Drags.
That's right, yeah.
And that night, like after that day is when we went to this In-N-Out, and it was probably like 10:30 at night or something like that. So the gift store building was closed, and I was like, well, I wonder what they have for shirts. I'd love an In-N-Out shirt. So I browsed the website, and I'm big, as you already know. I'm huge on pocket tees. Like I just plain white tee or black pocket tee. Those are like my two. I'm real easy to figure out. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, I'm wearing my black and white Vans, my black 512 Levi's, and a black pocket tee. I'm like pretty predictable.
Yep.
But once I realized that In-N-Out offered a black pocket tee In-N-Out shirt with the logo, the like vintage 50s logo on the pocket, I was like sold. I should have bought 3 of them.
I'm surprised you didn't.
Yeah, I should have. So I'm really stoked on that. You are wearing an Airlift Performance shirt. I got the
Yes,
same
I am.
shirt too. Yeah, I like that. Those shirts are super comfortable.
They are comfortable, yeah.
I think they're next level shirts too.
They might be.
I can't remember. They're not American Apparel, but they're super nice. I'm glad that Airlift didn't like just like cheap out and make them on like a cheap Gildan shirt or like just whatever, like some cheap shirt. I'm glad that they're comfortable and they fit well because you know I've worked with Airlift on like numerous projects, so I'm glad that when they send a shirt or something, it's like a shirt I actually enjoy wearing.
Yeah.
And you got the Vans on too, the black and bubble gum.
Yeah. The black and gums, yeah.
Yeah.
With the gold rivets.
I've got the same pair.
Yeah.
Obviously. But those, man, like the back, like it's a stiffer canvas than like the other ones.
Yeah.
Like they're almost like Levi's with a different wash. 511s or 512s all fit different. the different colors and different washes.
Yep.
The Vans fit different too. And so I've had a pair of those since they first came out. I remember when the Black and Gum first came out, I was like, yep, I'm going to buy those. And I immediately didn't like them because the back canvas where it hugs the back of my heel was like, it never broke in. It just always seemed like it gave me blisters. But
yeah. These are definitely taking longer to break in than the
other
pairs
ones.
that I
Yeah.
have. Yeah, for sure. I don't know if just the heel is more solid.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those of you who are listening on Spotify or not watching on YouTube, I've been when I started this podcast, even before I started the podcast, my plan was, since I'm a root beer connoisseur and as is Corey, the plan was to have like a different brew root beer for every episode and kind of talk about it. Not that it would be a sponsorship light, but since the podcast just started, there's no sponsorships coming in, nor is there a reason for there to be because the audience isn't, big yet or anything like that. But to give my own spotlight for different root beer companies. And then, like I said earlier today, I didn't realize that it was just going to be like, if you're over or if I just decided to do one by myself. It's like just off the cuff, not planned. Let's just do a podcast. And it might not be a time of the day where I feel like having a root beer. So at the moment, we are both drinking ding, 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 Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Yes, we are.
And yeah, we're that basic. We like the drip coffee. I'd like to get into coffee more because I didn't start. Okay, so I'm 35 now. And I didn't start drinking coffee until I was in my late 20s. Like I didn't touch coffee. So I've always had a sweet tooth, not really for snacks, but I like sweet drink. I love sweet tea. Sweet tea is like my favorite beverage.
Yep.
And I used to drink way too much soda, like way too much. I don't know how I functioned as a professional BMX athlete, like for the lack of water and the amount of soda I drank. I don't get it. And I literally chalk it up to like the reason why I don't have crippling diabetes now is that I rode so much that I just forced my body to burn all that sugar and inflammation out of my system.
Yep.
But I've always had a sweet tooth for beverages, but I never liked coffee because I loved the smell of it and I liked the idea of it because, and you can attest to this too, since I don't drink alcohol, I don't have that social construct around drinking. I'll hang out, as do you, obviously. We'll hang out with friends at parties or at bars. We're involved in our friends socially in that aspect, but not actually consuming alcohol and partaking in as the night goes on and the drinks are flowing and you get loosened up and I've always been sober in that, right? So I've never been a part of that experience through and through. And so with root beer, that's kind of to come back to the coffee thing, the social construct around coffee, like getting coffee with your friends in the morning, or if you're asking a young lady out on a date, it's like, hey, let's go get a cup of coffee. That's been more of my cup of tea or coffee, I guess. And so I never drank coffee because I didn't like the taste of it. And I always thought if you were going to drink coffee, you had to be a man and drink it black or just very stiff. And I loved the smell. I loved the idea of like getting coffee with your friends, but I could just never get into it. So finally in my late 20s, I was at a Dunkin' Donuts or something, literally just getting donuts. And someone ahead of me ordered like a white coffee. It was like a medium hot coffee with like extra or something ridiculous. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's got to be nothing but sugar. So then once I started talking to more of my friends that did drink coffee and learned that most of them did take like extra cream and regular sugar or extra cream, extra sugar, or what crate. And I was like, really, you guys like, so I tried it with extra cream, extra sugar. And I was like, wow, okay, that's like actually really sweet, and started leaning myself down to the point where I'll just get a regular hot coffee the way they fix it with normal cream and sugar. Mm-hmm. And so now I'd say maybe I was 28. I haven't been drinking coffee for 10 years yet. I don't think 28 or 29, maybe. Yeah. I was drinking coffee before I was 30, but now I love it. Now I just love coffee. I wish it did something to me to where it like the caffeine actually like worked.
Yeah.
Cause on like long drives and stuff, I'll be getting sleepy and I'll stop and get a cup of coffee and like it doesn't, like I'll drink a cup of coffee at 9:00 at night, go to bed at 10.
Yeah.
And sleep like a baby.
Same here. Yeah.
So sometimes I wish the coffee would actually like do something and I'm not just like drinking more liquids and having to pee all the time. But so so Corey's up. We rode BMX today. Since he's up, I was like, well, yeah, we definitely need to record a podcast. I'm trying to, especially now with everybody out of work, for the most part, most everybody, and everybody's just kind of sitting at home. I really wanted to make sure I got at least one podcast a week out, even if I'm doing it by myself. But it's easier to sit here and chat with friends and whatnot.
Yeah,
so
and I like being here and being on the podcast. So.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. And more questions kind of come in, like for you too, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really no agenda. There were some questions that came in. I put an Instagram story out earlier today, knowing that we were going to be recording this later. So I haven't even looked them over yet. We can cover some of that stuff. Some of the news, some of like personal news, I've been tinkering on the Century a little bit more, and it's been like a laundry list of just small things. I've stopped like unnecessary spending on all my projects.
Yeah.
As I've mentioned in past podcast episodes, work has slowed down a little bit, so I'm just kind of being proactive on my spending and not spending a bunch of money on projects that really aren't necessary. Just kind of sitting and riding this whole wave out to just see how quick it's over, how long it may take until it's over, just kind of being safe. But that being said, I've been working on the Century more because it needs more work to like be like drivable, and I haven't really tidied anything up yet. I haven't finished a trunk setup for the air management in the trunk yet. I basically just, so to fill everybody in, I might as well now.
Yep.
The car is now on Airlift Performance Management. And as I mentioned earlier, I've worked with Airlift for years. They've been amazing to work with, a bunch of really great guys at Airlift. Airlift itself has been a company since 1949. For those who don't know, that company like has been building airbags mostly for like road tractors, air suspension and trailers and road tractors over the road, tractor trailer trucks and all that. But the performance division started, I don't know, I should read up on it, in the last like 12 years, 08, 09, maybe 05-ish, something like that.
Yeah.
It's not older than 15 years basically, as far as I know. Maybe it started around 2000. But it's like new in the lineage of like, or the history of Airlift Performance. And my buddy Corey Rosser is actually the one who helped start the performance division of Airlift. And he like, if I have it right, I'm pretty sure he responded to like a want ad for help for Airlift and just started working as like a warehouse hand for Airlift, and then just climbed the ladder through and had a lot of really good ideas, and now manages Airlift Performance. And so Corey, through my relationship with Corey, he got Airlift Performance Management in my Corvair in 2015, and that's where we kind of began working together on different projects. So when I got the Century, our good friends at Bag Riders in Burlington, Vermont, wanted to be a part of this project. So through them, I decided to run all Airlift Performance products, not just management, but the hardware, the bags, the front strut assemblies, everything Airlift. And so they sent everything, the full 3H system with the height sensors. I've run the 3P and 3H system in like 5 cars at least now, and love it. I love it. No problems. You and I were talking about this the other day.
Yeah,
like,
we were.
No problems. Literally, I've had no issues. I've blown an ignition power fuse like twice in my Corvair, and that fuse had been in the car for 5 years now. So I mean, like, whatever. I put a new fuse in it and it hasn't blown yet. So along the way, before I dove into the Century, while I was out at SEMA, I got a chance to speak with Dustin and Reno from AccuAir, and they wanted to be a part of the Century build. And since Airlift themselves weren't hooking the Century up, it was through Bag Riders, who are an air suspension distribution company
Right.
who distribute Airlift and AccuAir products. I talked with them and I told them what was going on, and they're like, yeah, perfect. We'll basically go in on this project with AccuAir.
Yep.
And if you need anything from us, let us know. So AccuAir sent me their brand new E-Level Plus system, and I got that all mounted and in the car before we left for Chattanooga. And then obviously, I mean, 2 weeks ago, they folded. And that's, I even talk about it a little bit on the ILB Drivers Club podcast.
Right.
And so once that happened and all those details are either in the ether or to be, to kind of be dissected and kind of analyzed however you'd want to. There was writing on the walls, obviously, but I wish all of those guys well. They're a bunch of really good dudes. I'm happy I was able to get to know them whenever I'd see them around, and we got the chance to hang out with them a lot at SEMA. Really nice guys. I hope, I wish them the best, obviously. But that being said, I was now left with a brand new, what I would assume barely field tested,
Right.
app-based system for a car that now has no service or support behind it. Like Acura was like done. Phone lines are gone. Emails are not being received or responded to. Warranties are no longer valid. The app, I don't even know if the app for the U-Level Plus system came out. If it did, there's going to be no like debugging or updates, software updates, any of that stuff. So it would be tough. It'd be tough to even just maintain that system over a lengthy period of time if you had any sort of issues, with a compressor or valve inside the endo CVT tank or something like that. So I still had the 3H system laying around that was initially going to go into Century. And over this last weekend, I pulled all the Acura stuff out and put all the Airlift stuff in. And I kind of kept it quiet off of Instagram. I didn't want to make it seem like that the second Acura folded, I was putting Airlift stuff back in the car. But I had an open weekend. I had all the Airlift stuff here. And it was going to happen sooner or later just because of the service and support.
Right. Yeah.
If something breaks, I can call Airlift and get those parts. If Acura stayed in business, I would have kept the Acura in.
Right.
No question about it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of out of like necessity that I put the Airlift system back in the Century. So I've been spending time on that. I rewired the whole car. Had to pull all the interior out again and run all the wiring, and and that just takes forever in that car because that thing's just packed with so much crazy stuff. And for those of you who have been asking, because I mentioned it on the podcast once and on an Instagram story back a couple months ago, that I was convinced that the middle of the Century, the long wheelbase Century, that the middle are actual doors and that they open. I was almost convinced that there were hinges. And yeah, there was a question that maybe those were the hinges for the rear door on the short wheelbase car, and they just left those hinges to act as a mount for that middle door. And I think we talked about this on the last podcast. I was tagged in a photo on Instagram. And I saw those doors open on a long wheelbase Century in Japan. And I'm like, they open. I know they open.
Yes.
So and I don't think it's a handle. I think there's some bolts that have to be undone in order for that to open. And I think those bolts are just hidden behind some interior paneling that I haven't pulled away yet. So, so I haven't figured that out. For anyone who's been asking, it's awesome that you've like been as interested or more interested than me to like continue messaging me on Instagram to be like, hey, have you figured out how those doors open yet? So it's cool that you guys have been kind of on top of that. The second I take some time to figure out how they open, I will definitely post it on Instagram and show you guys how I figured out how they open, because there's only 400 of those cars made. There's no info out there. I've even had guys, I did a little bit myself, but I've even had guys message me on Instagram and they're like, dude, I buried myself in the internet for like 3 hours the other night trying to figure out how those doors open. I'm like, yeah, there's no info. There's only been a handful of those cars ever made. So there's no information. You'd almost have to talk to somebody who serviced one of those things in Japan. And like, oh, this is how they open.
And then translate it. And
yeah, exactly. So I've been tinkering on the Century. I rebuilt one of the Desmonds, or resealed it basically because it had a leak, and mounted the tire back up, and then realized one of the rear wheels was leaking. So I debeaded the tire and just like cleaned up the wheel, cleaned up the seats on the wheel, and reseated it, and it leaked again. So then I debeaded it and I like rotated the tire a little bit and just kind of fiddled with it a bunch. Then I finally like took the tire off and realized that the bead of one of the beads on the tire was like ripped. Yeah. And I think I did it the first time I mounted it. I was kind of mounting them with haste, I guess. I was kind of just like throwing them on, and I didn't have the inside like down low enough below the drop in the wheel, and it just got tight and like ripped it. And it's my own fault.
It'll happen quick.
It did. It's not the first time I've done that either. So now I've got one stock wheel on the back and 3 of the Desmonds, and I'm still not driving it because it's not sorted out yet. So I've got a few friends currently looking to see if they've got 205 40 17s laying around, like just one tire that's like not completely roached, but it doesn't have to be brand new either. So just got to locate one of those, mount one up, and Then I think I gotta build the exhaust. My dad and I are gonna tackle that next. Need to from the cat's back, basically. Yeah, basically from like the center section of the car back. I'm gonna cut the. So there's two cats. It's a dual exhaust system with a huge accumulator muffler behind the axle that goes to like one pipe out. And after the two cats, it comes back to like two resonators. Then they both go up and over the axle to the main accumulator. Then it goes to a single tailpipe that goes to like a small muffler and comes out. Because that car is like dead silent from the factory.
Yeah.
You know, that drive, when we drove across country, that thing made no noise at all. But it's a cool sounding V8. So I want it to have like a throaty sound without being loud or raspy.
Right.
I don't want to straight pipe it.
But menacing.
Yeah, exactly. Just a low rumble. When you're on the throttle, it sounds kind of menacing. So where the resonators are, I'm going to run two of the shorty cherry bomb, like glass packs, and then go over the axle and accumulate to just one pipe, not a muffler. And then just run maybe a 2.5 or 3 inch pipe, like a nice chrome pipe out the back, and see how it sounds. Because it's all about tone for me. Like tonality is huge. And if it doesn't sound quite right, you know, if like a 3 inch pipe is too big and no sound waves bounce around too much, and or they bounce around like too slow and it's got this weird sound, like I might go down to a 2.5 inch pipe or something. I'm gonna mess with that for a little bit, to get it to sound just right. And then I gotta get shorter shocks ordered. As I told you before, I've got the air shocks in the back right now just to have some dampening so the thing doesn't bounce around with just the bags. And they don't compress as low as the car will sit now. So
Right.
There's just a few things I'm trying to tidy up, and just been tinkering on a few other things like the dually, the Corvair. Going to bring the 700 over here soon since we're out of the unit at the end of this month, which we didn't do a single thing with. The 700 sat in there all winter, and you and I split the rent on that place for the 700 to sit in there.
Yeah, that's all right.
We didn't expect to be moving to Tennessee though when we first jumped into that lease. So
a lot of things changed in my life in the past couple of months too.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. And now all that's over.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
A lot better.
Yeah, I know.
learning to breathe again.
Yeah, it's a good feeling though, isn't it?
It is. Yep.
It's a really good feeling. Well, maybe we'll go through some of these Instagram questions. We'll do a short podcast this time. We got some old BMX videos we're going to watch after this.
Heck yeah.
Like VHS ones. Like that we recorded with a Sony Handycam with a high 8 tape. Like before the mini DV tapes were like common.
Yeah. I think you're aging yourself now.
I said I was 35 earlier in this episode.
I know.
Well, luckily if I shave, we're under quarantine. I'm wearing a hat more often now. And I haven't shaved in like 3 weeks, and I'm really starting to look like the typical like quarantine people. I need a haircut terribly.
Yeah.
I'm going to start soliciting some of my barber friends to just like come over to the house. Wear a mask if you want.
I know, right?
Doesn't matter. Like, I'm not sick. That's fine. Yeah, I get it. I don't know if I'm asymptomatic or whatever, but I practice pretty tight like cleanliness and hygiene, and I'm on a rigorous like vitamin regimen, and it keeps me pretty healthy. So I'm going to start soliciting some barber friends to like come over here and cut my hair in my kitchen. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I'm going to shave my head here sooner or later. And it's not like, I used to have a shaved head, but I really like my haircut to the point where it'd take a lot for me to shave my head again. But let's go through some of these questions. Let me see. This is going to be a complete disaster because I'm just going to start reading them. There's only a few that came in today though, so it'll be good. Let me see. Never Finishing Projects asks, would you ever do a Nash Metropolitan build?
Heck yeah.
Those are a wild looking car. Are the Metropolitans the ones that have the skirts front and rear and they literally look like a hovercraft? It's like a
yes.
It's like a dome.
Yep.
And the front has a skirt. So the rockers or the sills, for those of you in England, the sills basically look like they go all the way around the car. It's like level. It's just like even. And it just looks like a hover car.
Right.
Is that Metropolitan?
Yeah, I'm pretty
That's
sure.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So I drove the Corvair to the Good Guys Hot Rod Show in Springfield, Massachusetts in 2014. And there was a guy there with one of those Nash Metropolitans with an LS in it. And it was on air, and the whole thing sat flat on the ground. And because it has skirts, I'll show you some photos. I've got photos somewhere. Because that thing has skirts, over the front and rear wheel arches, it looks like it doesn't have wheels under it to begin with, but he like body dropped it on like a frame, like a car chassis.
Yeah.
Maybe he used the Nash chassis, I don't know. But when it aired down, it just sat, it like absorbed the wheels. It just sat on the ground. It was just like I don't even know how to describe it.
Yeah, hovercraft.
Like a soapbox racer. Yeah, I think just sat on the ground. And it was a really cool car. So it's not my style. It took a lot. It would take a lot for me to really get into Nashes.
Yeah.
So, like they're just an odd. I was having that conversation about Studebakers the other day.
Yeah.
It's like it just takes they're just odd cars. The Metropolitan, let's put it this way. For me personally, there's a laundry list a mile long of cars I would probably do before Metropolitan, but seeing that LS powered one on air like did it for me.
Right.
Like, someone did it. It looks amazing. That's what had to be done on that car. It's got modern V8 power, so that thing sounds and goes like crazy, but it's on air, so it sits on the ground. It just looks like something out of like a futuristic movie.
The wheels disappear.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let me see. Steve von Kretchenstein says, for both of you, dream venue to play or see a show? Then we're talking about music here. So, I didn't read any of these.
That's a good one.
So I guess to put it locally, if we were playing shows back when we were playing shows, which was basically for me 2004 to 2009, in like 05, 06, 07, the Middle East in Boston was like the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Therefore I Am would play a show at the Middle East and they were from Boston, they were like the homeboys. It was almost like a day to remember playing in Ocala.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Therefore I Am was basically that caliber to everybody in Boston or New England.
Yeah. It was Every Time I Die playing in Buffalo.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd been to shows at the Middle East, but I never played a show there. So I don't even know if the Middle East is still a venue anymore, but I would love to play a show at the Middle East like now, but with the scene of 07 with like Therefore I Am or something like that. Like that, the energy in that place was just unbelievable. And if you guys are curious and want to like YouTube it, just YouTube Therefore I Am Middle East or just Boston. More than likely the videos that'll pop up will be from the Middle East. But man, those are the days. But playing a show downstairs at the Palladium was always something I wanted to do too. Because I saw my first, in 2003. I was a senior in high school. 2002 maybe? I might have even been a junior. It might have been 2003. I'd have to really think about it. I saw, let's put it this way, it was between 01 and 03. But Taking Back Sunday had just come out with Tell All Your Friends, like their first like debut album on Victory Records or whatever that went like big. And I saw my girlfriend at the time, my like high school sweetheart, this girl I dated for like 3 years through high school, was a huge pop punk girl. Like,
heck yeah.
Chuck Taylor's, short, cute little brunette, wore like black hoodies and just early 2000s like pop punk girl.
Right.
And I was more into Refused, At the Drive-In, Rage Against the Machine. Like I was Rage Against the Machine was like as like mainstream as it got for me. But I was Refused, At the Drive-In. I can't remember what else I was really listening to that early. Oh, the Appleseed Cast, bands like that, like a lot of indie rock and like post-hardcore stuff. So I wasn't really that into the pop punk thing. Mm-hmm. But when Tell All Your Friends came out, I loved it because like Take It Back Sunday was like the first to do that style of like overwhelming layered vocals. And Thursday, I got really into Thursday. Full Collapse had come out in like 01, and Full Collapse, Thursday's second album, was that to this day that album beginning to end is just it shaped my music taste. It shaped the way I wrote music, and it shaped like my life through and outside of high school. Like I was an 18-year-old, like I was like a sponge or like clay being molded by life, you know what I mean? So so in between 01 and 03, I can't remember exactly. I was in high school still. Hannah, my my girlfriend at the time and I went and saw, because she wanted to, and I was just kind of like along for the ride. But we saw Taking Back Sunday, The Starting Line, and I can't remember the other two bands. There were two other bands that like were just starting out that became like big pop punk bands. Mm-hmm. But watching Taking Back Sunday in The Starting Line play was like at the Palladium, downstairs at the Palladium in Worcester, Massachusetts, was where it all started for me there. And then I started seeing, you know, I went to like the metal fests there and I saw like all sorts of bands over the years at the Palladium.
Oh yeah.
But I never played there.
Yep.
Even though I played shows all over New England when I was playing shows somewhat full time, I guess you could say, I never played the Palladium. And they had a venue upstairs too, which is like a smaller stage. I know you've been there too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know.
More times than I could even count.
Yeah, I'm sure. Probably more times than me. I don't know. Like that's local stuff that I know of.
I'd love to go back to the. Did you ever play at the Derry Opera House?
Oh, of course I did.
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
I'd love to go back there and do another
2008 Derry Opera House.
Yeah.
Man. So when Mia's Time had their CD release show, we inadvertently had our How Near, How Far CD release show.
Yep.
Were you at that show?
I was, yeah.
Oh my goodness. So that was the last show that we played as How Near, How Far. And that was like, we kind of disbanded after that. And then I just started How Lost We Are as my solo project.
Yep.
Before I started The Rising Sea in like 2009, 2010. But yeah, that was the Derry. I don't know how many times I played the Derry Opera House with How Near, How Far. And How Near, How Far was an acoustic project, as you know, that I started, that my friend Barrett joined. And it was still just an acoustic project, just the two of us. And then we built it into like a 5-piece full like indie rock band. And I gotta say, man, like when I revisit the 4-song EP, the Loved and Lost EP that we recorded in 2008, that we essentially kind of released the same night at the Derry Opera House as Mia's Time did theirs, that album still holds up for me.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I'm my own worst critic. I've said it before, even on this podcast, that I am my own worst critic when it comes to music, my own music. And every now and then I'll revisit that album and I'm like, man, like and out of the blue. So I haven't talked to those guys in a long time. The guys in the band, and Barrett messaged me. Barrett lives in like Laconia or Guilford. He only lives like 15 minutes away. He messaged me out of the blue last week and he was like, dude, I was going through some like boxes of stuff at my dad's house and I found old CDs of you and I when we were still like a 2-piece acoustic project with How Near, How Far. Before How Near, How Far, I started an acoustic. See, I was all about names. So even if it was just me as just like an acoustic project, I'd always change the name because I'd always think there was a name that was better. And before How Near, How Far, I started a project called The Recovery Hall. Yeah. And that was like, and even today, that's like I like that name a lot. And there was a band, man, we're going to go deep right now. If you guys are listening and you know this band, please reach out to me on Instagram and just tell me that you know this band because I need to know about you. You know, I need to know
where you were.
The Jealous Sound. The Jealous Sound. If you listen to them in like 02, 03, 04, 05, like the years that I did, reach out. So The Jealous Sound, his vocals were, I'll show you some stuff once we're off the air here. His voice was super unique. He almost had like a lisp to his voice. It was very, very unique. It's like indie rock. And they had an album called Kill Them With Kindness. And the last song on that album is called The Recovery Room. Yep. Okay. And that is the saddest song you will ever hear. It's one of those songs that just like kind of knocks the wind out of your sails.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that song moved me so much. I didn't want to name like the band The Recovery Room. And I just thought when I think of hospitals and recovery rooms, I think of the corridors that the rooms lead into. So I thought of hallway. So I was like, well, the Recovery Hall. And it kind of became its own name. It didn't really mean much. It was just the Recovery Hall. Yeah. And that's kind of where that name kind of like was born from. And then, and we're going to go even deeper. How Near, How Far was the name of a song from a band called And You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead. And they became known as just Trail of Dead. And they were like an underground indie rock band, and they were on Conan O'Brien.
Oh, really?
I had heard them through, I can't remember, it's been so long, I can't remember where I heard them. But I had just gotten into them, and I was like, yeah, I like this a lot. Indie rock, kind of dark, kind of edgy indie rock. but like well produced. When I say like underground indie rock, I don't mean like B-roll, like recorded on like a cassette deck and like the quality's junk too. It was like good quality, but like they weren't like huge or anything. But they were called And You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead. And I got listening to them a bunch. And then when they were on Conan O'Brien, I couldn't believe it. Somebody said, "Hey, you like this band, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And they're like, "They were on Conan O'Brien." I'm like, "Oh, are you serious?" So I found the clip. It was like on YouTube or something. And even in like 2005, YouTube was kind of the Wild West. It was like difficult to find videos and stuff. And not everybody was uploading that kind of stuff. But I found Trail of Dead's set on Conan O'Brien. And now, mind you, going back to my favorite bands of all time, being Refused and At the Drive-In, both of those bands had the best, and I repeat, the best stage presence ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, Dennis Lixon, the singer of Refused, and Cedric, I can't remember Cedric's last name, the guy from At the Drive-In who started the Mars Volta. Those dudes had so much energy, it wasn't even funny. Like At the Drive-In would destroy their set at the end. They were just, so At the Trail of Dead was like this. So And You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead is like playing this like, and it's not quite as edgy or heavy or fast as At the Drive-In was, but they are destroying the set. Like their energy and their like presence on stage was and it just like solidified my love for that band even more.
Yeah.
Because I was into them audibly already, and then I saw them play a set, and not just any set in like a basement or VFW hall. They were on Conan on like cable TV.
Heck yeah.
And destroyed it. And I remember Conan. You guys Google this or YouTube it. Conan is like walking back, to shake their hand after the set, and he's like stepping over like drums and like guitars, and he's like, "Oh, Trail of Dead," and shakes their hand, and I was like, these guys are unbelievable. So my favorite song on my favorite album of theirs was called "How Near, How Far," and at the end of that song, I don't even think I've ever even showed you this song.
I think you did at one point. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. And at the end of this song, it goes into this crescendo, like this building, real atmospheric, real emotional, like build musically. And they're singing this one part over and over again. And they're singing "How Near, How Far, How Lost We Are." And it keeps singing over and over again. And so I just loved the sound of that name. So I named my acoustic project "How Near, How Far." Then it became a full band, obviously. And so we played for 4 years maybe as a band. And when we disbanded through like artistic indifference and it became like a tension thing, and we just kind of disbanded. I reverted back to like a solo project. Mm-hmm. And to finish that thought, "How Near, How Far," I started a project called "How Lost We Are."
Yeah.
And I kid you not, only one, maybe two if I really thought about it, but one person, after about a year of me playing as How Lost We Are, and I did 2 albums. I did 2 How Lost We Are albums, which I'm hoping to put on Spotify and iTunes.
Yeah, definitely get them up there.
I know. And I've been battling with the idea of releasing them under the Rising Sea name, because I really want to push the Rising Sea. And to be fair, How Lost We Are is just me, and so is the Rising Sea. So I'm thinking about like, I had names for those albums, but I've been thinking about calling them the Rising Sea, but naming the albums the name of the projects. Like the Rising Sea, How Near, How Far, the first How Lost We Are album.
Yep.
And then the Rising Sea, How Lost We Are, the second How Lost We Are album, or something like that. This is why I haven't uploaded this stuff yet, because I have this like war going on in my head, and I'm like, it's got to be just right. The visuals, the presentation, everything has to be just right. And as you know, knowing me, ultimately nothing ever gets done, because I've got this war, this battle going on in my head, and I'm like, it's not right. Nothing's right. I won't release it, and everything just sits on a hard drive for years. And so my first How Lost We Are album after the How Near album was also 2008. And then 2009, I did the second How Lost We Are album, which was sounding more like the Rising Sea stuff I started doing, which was more like movie score, movie soundtrack type, really open, atmospheric, lots of delay, lots of cello, violin, like not organic cello and violin. I write all that stuff electronically.
Yeah.
But that open, like very like built, layered, atmospheric, ambient music. Mm-hmm. So I've been thinking about that. But one person, after about a year of playing shows as How Lost We Are, one person said, "How Near, How Far, How Lost We Are, Trail of Dead? Is that from the Trail of Dead song?" And I'm like, what? Are you kidding? Yes, it is. I was like, it was just some random person after a show.
That's
It was
awesome.
like, they weren't even from town. They were just like, I came to see this other band, and someone said that your old band was called How Near How Far, and I'm putting the puzzle pieces together. I couldn't believe it. It was so, to put into perspective how I felt. I don't know the season number or the episode number. The beginning of The Office, when Michael Scott is getting in an elevator and Ricky Gervais comes out, and they start doing like the impressions.
Yep.
And Ricky Gervais goes, "That's what she said." And Michael Scott looks at him
and
gives him hugs him. That's how I felt when this guy was like Trail of Dead, and I was like he got me.
Yeah.
Just like Ricky Gervais got Steve Carell in that episode, or as their characters, obviously.
Yes.
I was like, that's how I felt. I couldn't believe it. I thought I was the only person in the world, at least in any realm of people that I would ever be in touch with personally, would ever know who that band was.
Yeah.
Or make that correlation. So that made my day. That made my year.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, How Near How Far, How Lost We Are, that kind of like, to me, that was, I really enjoyed that those both worked together as the lyric in the Trail of Dead song, but they stood apart well too.
Right.
They sounded like band names apart from each other. So yeah, so the Recovery Hall, How Near How Far, How Lost We Are, and then I had that short band with some of the How Near How Far boys called Galleries.
Right. Yep.
And that we wrote almost an album worth of music, and then again just had like artistic indifference, and it just, it got stressful. But that would have been such a good album, I think. I understand why some of those guys didn't feel free to like write the way they wanted to write, because Galleries was like my baby, basically.
Yeah.
It was like I had a vision, I had a full theme for that band. I knew what I wanted it to sound like. I knew the tuning I wanted the whole album to be written in. I was like this, like, I was just, I don't know. I was like obsessed with like the sound of this album and what key it was going to be written in, what tuning, and just the overall like visual and like presentation.
Yep.
And I get it. The other guys wanted to add more stuff, and the stuff they were adding was really good. But then it was like I was stubborn. I was young and stubborn, and I was kind of a closed book to like opening up to like writing in like major tunings. I wanted to write everything in a minor key,
right?
So everything was super sad and dismal sounding,
and
very gloomy and like emotional sounding. And so that didn't work out, and that's when I moved to Florida in 2009, because I was still riding BMX full time. That was like my job,
right?
So that there was tension there too, where these guys, all they were working like your basic 40-hour work week, and all they wanted to do was write music and tour. But I was always on BMX trips. I was always traveling, and I understood it was like stressful for them, because they'd want to like write an album, finish it, and just hit the road and tour. But I had like these trips. I had contracts. I was like traveling on these trips, and that was a dream come true in itself. But it was very stressful to try to balance the two. That's why I always reverted back to a solo project.
Yeah,
It was just because I could
do it on your time.
Yeah, I could give it attention whenever I had time to give it attention, and without anybody kind of pressuring me or without me leaving people out to dry too. So I've been thinking a lot about that lately, and we're going back to the idea. I've been struggling with the idea of starting a Patreon, and Ben Walker, our friend from England, and I had a Zoom session for like 2 hours last night.
Yeah, it was great.
Was it last night?
It was great. Yeah, it was last night.
It was last night. So it was great. It was great to like talk to Ben. Him and I had done a couple Zoom sessions and Instagram live sessions before, like in the last like couple weeks. But we did. I was talking to you guys about how about a year ago, almost to the month, like last June, my good friend Kevin Furness, who I've known since I rode for the Take. He did all the graphic work for the Take. He was an artist. He did all the graphics and like the visuals for the Take. And then he got into tattooing. He did my first tattoo, the tattoo of the dove flying into the flames under my bicep here. And it was his like second ever tattoo. Like my first, his second.
Yeah.
But he's done most of my tattoo work. Like he's done my leg, he's done my sleeve, he's done a lot of work on me. And him and his, at the time, wife, Lena, who's from Moldova, who I've already talked to you about.
Yep.
She's the singer in a band called Infected Rain. And it's like a European, like dark metal band. It's like that style. But she is a sweetheart. Like, so they came and stayed here for about a short week maybe. And she's like super famous in like that scene. Like she's got like, over 100,000 followers on Instagram, and she's like the face of her band basically.
Right.
And Kevin had kind of talked to her a little bit about me, but just in passing conversation about his friends and stuff before they came here. And so we got talking about her YouTube channel, her Patreon and stuff like that. And it's not an OnlyFans thing. She's not into that.
Nope.
But it's like a Patreon for the band, like to promote her YouTube, to promote exclusive content. And basically what a Patreon is like built for.
Yeah.
And she was like, you should start one. And I'm like, I can't. It feels too icky, like self-centered, self-promoting. I didn't like that feeling to it. And she was like, but it's not. Like, you got to understand the things that you're doing interest other people.
Right.
And you need to be able to like allow them to feel special, to where you're like, yeah, they're paying monthly for this either interaction or merchandise or info about certain things.
Yep. Something special.
Exactly.
Yep.
And again, I took a step back and I was like, it just doesn't, I don't ever want, because when you see somebody like trying to like promote themselves in a real like icky way, it just doesn't, it just feels bad. And so I've been at war with myself again about the idea of starting like a Patreon. And now that we're talking more about music, like I told you guys in that Zoom session, that I've been trying to think more and more about how I would go about it if I started one. And that I would want to start one for the Governors Club and do exclusive merchandise and exclusive like prints, like work with some photographer friends of mine and do some limited edition prints of like some of the TGC cars and limited edition sticker packs and you know, for like the $5 a month, $10 a month, or even $20 a month, like levels or tiers or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And then I thought like, well, what if I just, and this was where it would feel like weird for me, what if I like branded it around me, but included my music, Night Laser, which I was mentioning. Night Laser, I've been wanting to brand Night Laser, even though it's my laser engraving business. I've been wanting to, it's like, I've wanted that to have like an 80s synthwave retro feel to it. So I've been wanting to like build that into its own brand and have that atmosphere around it, have like that brand feel. So, and now with the podcast, that's under that umbrella too. With a Patreon, I'd want to, I know this is ultimately turning into like a giant plug for like starting a Patreon, but like I haven't started one yet. So this is like me kind of like publicly, it's like me publicly like digging up all my emotions and my conflicting feelings about starting one. But I feel like there's a ton of stuff that I would be able to bring to the table to offer to people, because I don't want, like, it's like a GoFundMe thing. Like GoFundMe, it's like, those are, in my opinion, those are for people who have been.
Yeah, but that's totally different.
It is. I know.
It is.
Yeah. They're not. It's just strictly donation stuff. So I get it, but I still feel the same way. It's like people are paying money, and it's like I want to make sure I show up and I deliver. You know what I mean?
But
it's like
they're paying for a product.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Not always a product, but like you said, information or
interaction,
special content on different things.
Yeah.
And where a GoFundMe is, they're giving you money to do something that you want to do.
And for sometimes it's incredibly important.
Right.
Someone who's been injured. Yeah, I know. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, there's the other side of that where someone's like, help fund my S13 drift car build. And it's like, like, people are paying people money, but it's like, I just never, ever want it to be like in that realm. It just felt too, I don't know, like bad. But with the Patreon idea, and this is what Lena was telling me. Lena was like, offer like everything that you do, like offer, like exclusive TGC or Night Laser merchandise and switch it up. And then, well, this is me expanding on her like motivation to start a Patreon, but like do exclusive merchandise that are only for certain tiers of the people that are on there. But go as far as doing Patreon only podcasts for just those people on that tier. And I'm talking to them specifically. So I've got the Purpose and Passion podcast. That's either obviously me sometimes, you and I sometimes, and then have the guests I want on, but then do like a personal Patreon podcast where I'm talking to the people who are patrons. And talk to them about certain things. And it's like, that's the exclusive content for them only, but then go even as far as include the Rising Sea stuff. And I think it would really motivate me to finally finish Rising Sea Music, where I would, as I'm working on music, I would bounce down samples and offer them on certain tiers on Patreon too. And I get that music's relative. Not everybody likes the style of music that I'm writing, but it would be a part of that whole package where it's like, I can offer like exclusive music, looks into like releasing singles on Patreon first before it goes to Spotify or iTunes or whatever. And yeah, TGC and Night Laser stuff and Purpose and Passion podcast stuff. Basically, all I'm doing is on the Zoom session with you and Ben, and now with whoever's listening to this podcast, I'm like, like when we were riding today, I was saying, I just talk out loud to give myself affirmation.
Yeah.
I'm like, I say it.
I
So
get it. It works.
I can hear myself say it, and I'm like, it makes sense, right?
It does.
And I'm convincing myself, I'm like, right? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds right. Just do it. And this is what happens when you live alone, you work alone, and yeah, in quarantine specifically, you don't see anybody.
Yeah.
You know, like you start these conversations with yourself to give you to motivate yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
so you don't just sit around. Yeah, that's the way I've kind of always been. So, and as I mentioned before, I think this upcoming week I'm going to focus on a Patreon. I'm going to I want to make sure it's like visually the way I want it. I want to make sure everything's right. I don't want to like start it half-assed and have it just be pay me money. Like I want people to get every dollar's worth. I want to like make sure I'm working hard for them to where it's like, even if it's $5 a month, I want to keep switching stuff up and make sure that I'm constantly sending stuff out, you know, and as you know, and as people who are listening to this, who have received any Governors Club sticker, I always handwrite like a thank you on the back of it.
Since 2014 or
11.
Oh yeah.
2012, I think, is when I first started shipping
I was thinking
stickers.
of the first time I ordered something from TGC. I remember it handwritten. I'm like, oh yeah,
that's awesome. See, and that's see, I forgot all about that. Like, because now that we're friends, it's like I almost forget that that you had ever even ordered a Governors Club anything. So yeah, so I mean, and I get a lot of people that'll repost that stuff on Instagram when their Governors Club stuff comes in. They'll actually take a photo of like the note, and they're like, "Wow, this is amazing." And I'm like, "It's the least I can do.
Yeah.
You paid for this sticker, and that's that money went towards like more Governors Club stuff, or at the bare essential level, like helped me like put food on my table."
Right.
So that means a lot to me. And so any Governors Club sticker, shirt, hard good, key ring, mirror hanger, whatever that I've ever made has been shipped from this house. Like I package it. So when we're walking through downtown Velden in Austria at Wörthersee, and there's that group of dudes from Switzerland wearing Governors Club hoodies, I'm like, I packaged that hoodie up and I sent it across the world, and now he's here.
Right. Or stickers on all the cars over there.
So nuts.
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys right now, and I know a lot of you guys in Europe are listening to this, when and this doesn't discount anyone I see here in the States with a Governors Club sticker on their car. But when I started going to Europe more, and like 2015 was my first year to Players Classic in England, and it was like Jay or Carl, I can't remember which one, Jay or Carl from Players made the joke. They're like, I see more Governors Club shirts around here than I do Players shirts. This is a Players show. And it blew my mind. And it wasn't a ton. I mean, maybe it was like 10 people, which is still my first time in England. I'm on new soil. I'm on a different continent.
Yeah.
And there's guys walking around this car show wearing Governors Club shirts that I packaged and sent out of my house. And it was just so humbling. I'm like, it was just a feeling that I can't even put into words.
Yeah.
And so that means a lot to me, that somebody somewhere felt moved enough to like go to the web store and order a product. And I know this is turning into a long plug for all that stuff, but it just, it means a lot. I don't know. Like when you have the right intentions and you like put like an organic, genuine like passion into something, I luckily in most cases it reciprocates. Like
absolutely.
It shows. It like shows that somebody's got their heart and soul into something and not just looking for a quick buck, or to fake it until they make it. To like to kind of like make something fake and just try to climb a ladder of some sort. There's no ladder.
That's a big part of why I don't think the Patreon will come off as anything other than what you want it to be. You know?
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah.
It won't be anything superficial.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I've been trying to tell myself. And I've been trying to like gear up too. I'm like, if I start a Patreon, I need to be ready to hustle and put the work in.
Yep.
Because I don't want to let anyone down.
Right.
So, and I'm sure there's lots of new Patreon accounts starting in this whole deal where people are out of work, hopefully just temporarily, and they're sitting around and their gears are starting to turn and they're like, what can I do? Like what, not to just make money, but what can I do to like follow a passion
and to continue to be creative?
That's it. Yeah. And turn a hobby into a career or a living of some sort, or even supplemented income or something. So so now more than ever, I'm trying to like get geared up to where maybe if Night Laser isn't doing the amount of work it was doing before this, after this, then maybe I can re-gear everything to where I've just kind of realigned myself and I'm working just as hard, but it's like still kind of manageable and sustainable, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think I'm going to work on that this week, and hopefully for you guys listening, I'm really hoping that I can have something special for you guys. You know, that's my hope, is that somebody finds, I don't know, substance in it and enjoys it.
Oh, I have no doubt.
Well, I appreciate it. Carly asked the question.
Nice.
Let me see.
What's up, Carly?
It was Carly's birthday yesterday.
It was.
It was her 30th birthday yesterday.
Yep. Welcome to the 30s.
I wouldn't have said it was her 30th birthday because you're not supposed to ask a young lady how old she is. But she was plastering it all over Instagram that she was 30.
Made it very clear.
She's doing very well though. She's not letting it affect her, like the number. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like she's doing just fine. She asked a really cool question though. This is me reading it off the cuff. She said, "What's your favorite thing about each other? Answer individually." That's an amazing question, but it's a real difficult one to look at off the cuff and be like, I got to think about this now.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I can answer right away.
I'm gonna
because we just talked about it.
True. I guess we're kind of on the subject. I guess
it's the passion for every avenue that you venture down. There's a passion, and yeah, you don't do anything half-assed. You know what I mean? So that's it.
I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely,
I really do.
man.
And I mean, and my answer is like very similar. It's almost mirrored to yours. And I think that could be like kind of like more or less like, well, that figures, because that's how people are attracted to each other and become friends and ultimately like create ventures and stuff and whatever. But yeah, I think it would have to be like dedication, like your dedication to like your art, which is obviously automotive.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, how long now? 12 years?
Yeah, 12 years.
12 years?
Tech, yeah.
And so as I've mentioned before, that my patience wears out very quickly when I'm working on an automotive project. And so I'm not chalking this up to the fact that you've worked on cars for 12 years. It's not that cut and dry. It's not that black and white.
Right.
It's not like a two-dimensional thing. There's depth to this. So when I'm working on a car, the power motor window regulator in my Ford, and I'm like, I'm 20 minutes in and I'm like ready to like throw the truck in the ocean. But to bring it back to like your dedication, whereas like you've got that leather patience that like to figure this thing out, it's because it is a part of your job too, but it's like it's character building for you too, because it's going to transcend beyond your job, beyond that seize the bolt that's giving you a hard time that you're trying to get out of that car. It's character building the whole time. And I understand it is too. When I'm getting frustrated with something, I try to take a step back and think of guys like you, where I'm like, even my father too, I'm like, no, be smarter than the bolt. That's what my dad always says.
Yep.
You're smarter than the bolt, so don't let the bolt win. Why let that bolt get you mad that you can't get it out? And I'm like, yeah, makes sense. So you're a part of that like realm where it's like you just and I've thought about it before when we've been on the road on like road trips or whatever, and I can't remember if it was when we were coming home from Chattanooga just now, when we were in the dually, something was going on. I was so frustrated, and I'm like, it was like the dually like wasn't driving fast enough or something stupid, and I'm like, that is stupid truck, and you're just like, it's all good, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're right, it is. You know, so I think to almost, I think the fact that we like compliment each other in that way, where it's like when I'm by myself on a trip like that, I work myself up. Now I don't freak out. I don't have like road rage or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I just get frustrated easy, and I'm like, and I can burn it off, and like everything's fine. I don't let it really fester inside me. But like when I'm around people like you, where you're just like, it's all right. Or if something's like going wrong with what you're doing and I'm watching it and I'm getting anxiety watching it, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, and you're just like handling it with like, with like maturity and like, and like this seasoned kind of like outlook on the whole picture together. You know? And,
I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of like where I find like, I can like take a deep breath. I'm like, all right, I'm going to feed off that. I'm not going to like work myself off. So, and that goes, and you and I have both, as we've kind of recently been talking about, we've both been through like the relationship ringer with girlfriends and stuff. Yeah. So it's like we've both been in similar situations with girls. We've both been treated similarly, and like neglected similarly.
Yep.
As a lot of guys listening to this and girls can attest to, where we've put our heart and soul into a relationship that might as well have just been like a brick wall.
Right.
Or worse than a brick wall.
Right.
Brick wall, unless you're careening at it really fast, isn't going to hurt you. But like,
Yeah.
it's been, you know, we've both put like everything that we are into a relationship because it's what we wanted for the long-term future, and basically got like the bucket kicked over on us every single time. So, and not, we've both, and I don't know, I can speak for both of us, we've both been through relationships that were great experiences. They ran their course, and things may have crashed and burned at the time, but then you grow up and you kind of like mend things. I mean, I'm friends like Joanna. Like I've mentioned Joanna on the podcast before.
Yeah.
We dated, and you were talking about your ex.
Yeah.
They don't even call an ex because it was so long ago.
Right. It was so long ago.
And you become friends.
Yeah. We're talking now. Yeah.
Yeah. And even, I mean, like Joanna and I'd consider her a friend, you know? And so, but then there's the other end of that spectrum too, where it's like, there's I'd say not a few. There's a few that I'm just like, I have no interest, zero interest in like ever communicating. It's like, we gave that a run. I put in way more than I should have. It like crashed and burned, and I'm not looking back now. I'm just looking forward. I'm like back on my path, and which is a good place to be. So you and I have both kind of have been forced into like getting your gears back in line and getting on the rails, and focusing. So I feel like, although through the other things that we've already talked about, going through the ringer with some girls, I think we both kind of like, we're both looking out the same windshield.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
You know? So that's, because we've got plenty of other guy friends that, like Mason, who is engaged to Carly, who asked that question. Those two have it so good.
Yeah,
you know
I tell them all the time. They're giving me faith in humanity once again.
They are a perfect couple for sure. So so we have friends who, like, not that Carly and Mason hadn't been hurt separately before, but it's like you look at that and it's like, that's that's what I need.
That's the way it should be.
I need something like that. So so I mean that's cool, and I'm glad I'm glad that we had like met through music, never really hung out, never really became friends. And then through cars, it was kind of like we saw each other around. And then ultimately like, started, I can't remember even when that really, 2000, we went over this on one of the early podcast episodes because someone asked like when, might have even been Jack Smith asked like when we met each other.
Right. I think it was right around the time you were building the suspension in the Derby. And
it was.
Yeah.
Because I saw you at Volksbahn with your Mark 1, and I had the Derby before I started the suspension.
Before you redid the suspension.
And I remember it took me a secon to recognize you because like, hey, what's up, man? And I was like, and then I saw your Mark 1, I'm like, oh yeah, it's Corey. It took me a second, and because it had just been, I don't know, a few years since I'd seen you last, and it was probably at a music show.
Right.
And so it's funny how things kind of like ventured around.
And circled back.
Yeah, for sure. Let me see. Notch Jack, my buddy Jack from England with the notchback.
Mm-hmm.
Really sweet notchback. Notch Jack asked, well, first of all, he says, hope you're both well and staying safe. Hey, you as well, Jack.
Absolutely.
We're good. We're good so far. So far, so good. Our families are good. Everyone's healthy. As I mentioned beginning of this podcast, we're being safe. We're being precautious, you know, or we're taking precautions and being cautious. And we're good. He said, what seats do you have in the 700 and Corvair? They're different seats. They're both bomber seats, but they're different. So the seats in the Corvair were made by a company called Rotten Leonard, and I think they're out of like Boise, Idaho or something like that. And he had like an eBay store. I remember just Googling bomber seats just because I for the Corvair in 2014, early 2014, I was planning on building my own bomber seat. But I wanted them upholstered. I wanted padding. I wanted to be able to because my plan was, even at the beginning, when that car was finished, I was going to drive it 30 hours each way to Georgia.
Right.
So I wanted something that I could like sit in that wasn't going to kill me. So I just like Googled bomber seats, and I ended up on the Rotten Leonard website because they offered pretty budget friendly seats. They were like, it was like $350 shipped for a pair of seats.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
And they're pretty basic. It was like a bead rolled, aluminum sided, with
dimple dyed.
Yeah, really cool, with slots for seatbelt straps and all that on the sides, with upholstered like 3/4 inch, maybe 5/8 plywood, as like the backrest and the actual seat that you sit on. So I ordered those for the Corvair. The back was just the exposed wood though, with like the stapled upholstery.
Right.
So what I did was I took my dad had like an old aluminum sign out back, and that was a scrap aluminum, flat, like thin gauge aluminum. And I cut pieces that would fit, and you'll probably notice them now that I'm telling you this.
Mm-hmm.
The back, I made pieces that would fit the back. It would slide down into the flange of the sides where they wrap around to bolt the plywood to. And I brushed them all down. Like I stripped the paint, brushed it down. So it's got a real nice brushed aluminum look, and mounted those at the back. So now they don't look like just a wood back. They look like an all aluminum seat now. Right. So I modified them. The ones in the 700 were a pair of like all metal, like not even aluminum, like steel bomber seats that I think they came from my buddy Mike Cashman, and Mike had them in his hot rod for a little bit, and I think he might have found them on Craigslist.
Yeah,
I could be wrong there, but he found them online, bought them. It might have been a friend of his, I can't remember, and he had them in his hot rod for a little bit, and then he commissioned a guy to make these like really nice like steel bomber seats with like copper inlays and like really nice ones, and he was literally going to bin those ones.
Yeah,
and this was in the middle of my dad and I building the 700. And he's like, he knew the overall aesthetic I was going for with the 700, which was very comparable to the aesthetic of the Corvair, patina, kind of aviation interior feel.
Yep.
And he's like, listen, I'm gonna literally throw these things in a dumpster. And he works up here, obviously, as you know, lives in Mass, works up here. And he's like, I'll just bring them up next time I'm up next week and just drop them off. Right. I was like, okay, sure. And so those are in the 700, and I built these fixed feet. So basically they don't recline, they don't slide, but there's no back seat in that car. They're not gonna.
You are in the back seat.
You are in the back seat when you drive the car. Yeah.
Yep.
So what I did was I built custom feet for it that mounted to the Beetle pan that the 700 body's on, and I upholstered them myself too. I like, took plywood and upholstered the plywood and vinyl wrapped it, and they're black, so they look. It's like a black upholstered bomber seat. Yeah. And they're just as comfortable as the ones in the Corvair. So that's the story of the bomber seats in both the 700 and the Corvair. Just a few more questions. Notch Jack asked another question. He said, to follow those wire wheels you were talking about last episode, I considered buying them. That would be cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you follow me on Instagram, if you don't, it's John, John .Ludwick, Ludwick. But back a few rows when Corey and I were just recently in Chattanooga, we test fit some 100-spoke wire wheels that Mason had for his W123 Mercedes. And the adapters for the center, the knockoff center, had the same bolt pattern as the Corvair. So we test fit those wheels on the Corvair, aired it down. The offsets were just right. They tucked under, had the thin bias ply tire with the thin white wall, the typical 64 Impala lowrider setup. Yep. And it looked great. It did. It's not my cup of tea for the Corvair. That made Mason very mad because Mason wanted me to run them at Riverside at the show. Right. But they looked awesome. I aired it down. We took a bunch of photos. I posted them on the internet and even on Facebook. It went viral. People has like 200 shares or something. And I don't ever post anything that goes viral on Facebook. But so Mason was trying to sell those wheels because he went a different direction on his W123. And it sounds like Jack was considering buying them. Those would look amazing on the notchback.
Absolutely.
For sure. Emil _VW _Mark 1. Mm-hmm. He came to our Governors Club meet in Austria at Wörthersee. He's got that blue Mark 1 Jetta with the center lock BBSs on it.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I think they were BBSs. I'm sorry if I'm wrong there. I'm pretty sure he had like E50s or something. Center lock, true center lock.
Yeah, I think so.
Beautiful. Mark 1 Jetta on center locks. He came, like I said, to our Governors Club meet. That's where I met him. He said, are you going to Wörthersee next year, and do you bring a car? I think Emil's from Germany. I think that's where he's from Europe. Yeah. Yes. So the plan was to go to Wörthersee this year, but obviously it's been canceled. I mean, we were supposed to be in Austria next week. Right, we would have been over there. Yep. And it's a major bummer. It is what it is at this point because of the pandemic and stuff, but next year, the plan is to go. And also, yes, the plan has been to ship a car over to Wörthersee. Even when we went and attended in 2018 was a year that I really wanted to bring a car over. Right. And we've had this conversation a lot. I really want to bring the Corvair over simply because, And now I've owned that car the longest out of all the cars I have. So one could say I'm like the most bored of that car just because it's been around in the same configuration. But if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
I love the way it looks. So I want to bring the Corvair over simply because it's an American-made car that wasn't available in Europe. And I think that is the coolest factor of like driving that car across Europe.
That's also the reason you don't want to bring it to Europe.
Yeah, exactly. If we're going to drive that car across Europe and have any sort of mechanical failure,
Yeah.
you can't buy parts for it anywhere.
We find a Porsche engine and shove that in the back.
More than likely a Beetle engine because
Yeah,
we're talking. Well, come on, we're talking my budget here. We'll just
Yeah,
find a
but
Beetle
also, yeah, keeping it a 6-cylinder.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I've already entertained the idea of Porsche rear end swapping that car.
Right.
Like rear end, subframe, trailing arms, the whole lot, transaxle,
Yeah.
the whole deal. But I don't want to put that much money into that car. I really don't. But so yes, Worthesy hopefully will be over there. I'd love to do another Governors Club meet in Cologne, Germany, like we did, and also again in Velden at Worthesy.
Yep.
Probably not. I probably won't bring a car next year just because depending on like what finances look like this year with income and work, and if we end up moving to Tennessee, or if I end up moving to Tennessee, I'd still like to do that this fall if like work picks up and things go swimmingly through the year. So more than likely no car next year because that's going to be it. Unless we get some people on board. Unless like Aerof Performance and a bunch of show promoters come on board. My pitch about that was if I bring the Corvair over to Europe, it's going to be over there for a whole summer.
Right.
I'm going to have that car at every show that we've already attended or have planned on attending in the future.
Yes.
So the car would come over in the spring. I'd try to do a trip across Europe in it to Worthesy, early May, mid-May, get it back to England, even if I end up transporting it back to England, or to Belgium. The Keen Suspension boys
Right.
have always said, and I really appreciate it. I don't know if Kevin, Andy, or Kenny are listening to this, but they've always opened their door. Like, listen, bring the Corvair. We'll put it inside. We'll keep it in our shop. It'll be safe. And it's a middle ground to all the shows in Germany and Poland and Austria and England and Belgium, obviously.
Right.
So Players Classic at the end of June. Then Racism or Ultra Race. I know Racism is such a weird name for a show for anyone who's not in the automotive industry.
Right.
But it's a race, RACE-ISM.
Yep.
But he's changing the word. He's changing the name, which I think is good. I think he's calling it Ultra Race now.
Yep.
But get the car over there to Poland for that show. Get the car to Germany for XS Car Night, which our good friend Andy puts on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can't remember when Fitted UK is because like I really want to get the car to Alex's show. That's in Manchester, I believe, England. That's like late June, early July as well.
Maybe.
It'd be a ton of driving if it has to go from like
I felt like it
England.
was earlier. I felt like,
Oh, it might be.
yeah, I felt like it was May or
Yeah,
like
it
late
very,
May.
it very well
Yeah.
could be. So hopefully Fitted and Players Classic in England lined up and then take the car to Poland, Germany, et cetera.
Yeah.
So my pitch would be is to get all the show promoters on if they were interested in having the car there, like in promoting that the car's coming from America and all that sort of stuff. But if we had like 8 to 10 show promoters like pitch in like a few $100s, that would be more than enough for the car to come over and go back.
Right.
So, and then I'd pitch in. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be interested in just paying for the whole deal outright if I saved up like $4,000 for shipping and just like make it happen.
Yeah. And
But-
I'll have to come along and be your traveling technician and
Yeah, exactly. And
co-pilot.
help film and
Yeah.
because I can't do it all myself. But that would be an amazing trip, and
Absolutely.
the content that trip would provide would be amazing. To drive that car, specifically that car, clear across Europe and take it to all the European car shows would be awesome.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's kind of in the plan.
And air out on the Autobahn with Jules.
I'd have to air out on the Autobahn, like to drag the car on the
Yep.
Autobahn.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Jules knows.
Oh yeah.
Frangione _ asked, I've told you about this one earlier. Have you ever let a girl tell you not to buy a car? The answer-
Nope.
Yeah, the answer is definitely no. And I dated a girl once that wasn't in the cars, and that's fine. I dated a girl that was in graphic arts and didn't have any interest in any sort of like passion about cars. A car was transportation from point A to point B.
Yep.
That's all it was. New car, had a payment, new car because it was reliable. It would start. Anything that broke was under warranty. I get it. But they were definitely like not fed up. I don't want to say that. I don't want to throw them under the bus, but more or less like, why do you need like 6 old junk cars when you could just have like one new one.
Yeah.
You're always working on them. I'm like, yeah, but you don't get it. This is like a thing.
Yeah.
And this is like woven into the fibers of me. Like
Absolutely.
this is like gonna happen for the rest of my life. I'm gonna be digging junk cars out of the woods and bringing them home for the rest of my life. Like I'm always gonna be into the relics, the preservations, the rusty junk. So
yep, same here.
Take it or leave it. And that didn't work out. That didn't work out for other reasons too, but that was the main. It's one thing if you understand it. There's plenty of hobbies and career paths that girls have had that I've dated before that I don't know anything about and maybe don't have any interest in, but you support them, you compromise on things, and so no, I haven't had a girl tell me like, you can't buy that car. So I've never like lived with any of my girlfriends. I've never shared any finances with any of my girlfriends. I've always just liked my own space. Like I'll move in with a girl when I marry her. I'm very, very independent. And so I haven't ever been in that scenario where I've been dating a girl where it's been that controlling of an atmosphere. I wouldn't be able to handle that type of an atmosphere anyway, but like I've never been in that type of an atmosphere where it was almost like, you can't spend your money on that. It's like, because I haven't been married before. That's when that would, you know. And if I was married, that girl would be literally like the one where it's like you have like risen above all else and you are the one. So I would almost guarantee that if I have married this woman, it would basically be, I am in the process of burying my family by like a very, very poor financial mistake of buying some junk car. And she's like, hey, listen, no, you can't bring another one of those cars home. You got to feed your kids.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, you're right.
Yeah. All right.
You know, so that's when I feel like that would be inappropriate, where I'm like literally being an idiot and they're like, hey, and like slap me side the head, like knock some sense into me. And I'm like, all right, that's what I need. Because I almost need that now. Because like we're talking about going to Minnesota.
Oh my God, yeah.
To buy. Oh.
He just pushes the mic away.
So, man, this is Mike Cashman's fault too, because he tagged me in Cole Decker's post.
Yeah.
I'm hungry. We're gonna have to wrap. It's an hour and a half in. So to expand on this, there is currently a 1956 white, not the color, but the company white cab over road tractor. 1956 white cab over truck with a 1959 box trailer, like road tractor, single axle, dual wheel, gooseneck, 1959 trailer, like rounded edge with this unbelievable hand painted livery called what was it called?
Something in like French.
Yes, I've got it right here. Vendée all the way.
Yeah.
Van Lines. So this was a Van Lines like moving company.
Yeah. It's all patinaed.
And it's been sitting for decades. And apparently it was driven into the spot where it's been sitting for decades now. And it's a Canadian truck. It's got a kilometer cluster. But the business that the trailer is based out of Fenton, Missouri. And I love how underneath the Vendée, in this hand brush calligraphy, underneath it says Fenton, parentheses, St. Louis, Missouri. Like, it's like, so Fenton is probably like in the area of St. Louis. And they were like, you know, no one's going to know where Fenton is. We'll just put St. Louis in there.
But you can see the arch from Fenton.
Probably, yeah. But this came up on Facebook for sale. And the owner isn't listing it. It's like a guy that has like met the owner and is listing it for him. And they're selling the truck and the trailer as a combo for pretty cheap. And it's in Minnesota though. And being a Canadian truck scares me that it's like up in Duluth or something crazy.
Yeah,
it's like not just going to Minneapolis or St. Paul. It's like, oh, by the way, you're going hours more north. Yeah. And we're in New Hampshire.
Into nothing.
So for my 1952 Chevy 5-window cab over that my dad and I have like maybe 40% done, we've got a 6BT 12-valve P-pump Cummins in it. We've got a 5-speed manual gearbox behind it. It's on a manual. I mean, it's on a modern chassis. We've bagged the front. We've custom built a lot of parts for this. It was originally going to be a flatbed car hauler, but I've always reserved the idea of hauling a period correct tractor trailer box
Yes.
with like some old hand painted livery on it, but a box big enough to where I could put a car inside it.
Right.
Not necessarily a car hauler like this. I mean, you can see on this trailer where the fender wells are, and for how narrow that is, that like when you open those barn doors, like this folds down and then the upper half are barn doors.
Yeah.
You would have to drive up and over. The inner fender wells aren't like spread out enough to drive a car between them.
Right.
So you'd have to build like a false wall from the fender well all the way forward, and basically just, now obviously cars like the Corvair, the 700, etc., have a low enough roof height to where you could actually use that to haul cars.
Yep.
So
And you didn't mention that you'd be bagging the trailer as well.
yes. So now my thought process is, even if it's not the one in Minnesota, but I'm entertaining it. The cab over, my cab over is on a modern Dodge chassis, a long wheelbase 2-wheel drive dually chassis. So that cab over is now sits right over the front axle, right over the motor. And now it looks like a stretched frame road tractor, like a Peterbilt or Kenworth with a stretched frame, single axle dually stretched frame. But we were going to use that stretched frame for a 14-foot bed to haul a car on.
Yep.
But now and I told you, man, as far as I'm concerned, I've finally decided I'm going to build that truck. I'm going to paint the frame. I'm going to build it as a cabin chassis with a fifth wheel hookup as like a stretched 1950s cab over on air that lays on the ground. And I'm going to find, and I'm telling you, man, I'm so tempted to dip into my rainy day fund / quarantine. I don't know when I'm going to make money again fund.
Yeah.
And buy this trailer, somehow get to Minnesota and somehow transport the thing home.
Yep.
Buy the whole lot and sell the cab over. Hopefully
Right.
be able to like divide the money up and get somebody, because this is a sweet cab over.
Absolutely.
But I've already got one. And as far as I'm concerned, I've got one that I like more.
Mm-hmm.
Get the trailer home, rebuild the axle, wheel bearings, all that, and bag the trailer so
Yes.
it lays flat on the ground behind, have a quick hookup, have a quick disconnect for the air lines from my truck. So the truck air system controls the trailer air system, but the trailer also has a standalone
Yep.
system with a compressor and tank and all that. Oh my gosh. I'm seriously like that. Like we got to get to Minnesota and I don't have that girlfriend or that wife to be like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't. I'm like, I can.
Yeah.
And I probably will.
Yep.
We got to get out there.
Which goes back to that question.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
No one's going to tell you no.
I'm looking at, for those of you listening and not watching on YouTube, I'm looking at photos of it on my phone right now, and I'm almost trying to convince myself to call the guy because I've got his phone number. I can't right now, but it's basically allowed me to decide what I want to do with that truck, because that we're at the point where I was kind of hinging on what I wanted to do with it and what the rear end was going to be built as. So I'm as far as I'm concerned, I'm sold there. So the hunt will be on when I'm ready financially to like buy a period correct 1950s trailer that I could possibly haul a car in, that preferably has a beautiful hand painted like signage on.
Yep.
So that's kind of where I'm at there. Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's basically it. That's basically it for the questions. Don Vintage asked, what's next? How do you see the scene evolving? Well, I think with like NASCAR and stuff, to expand on this real quickly, with like NASCAR and automotive racing, you're seeing a lot more like virtual stuff. And even our friends Blake and Tom Whitaker, who put on Dust Off, are trying to adapt to what's going on right now. Their show is normally at the end of April, so it's coming up here in another week or so. And they're trying to like recalibrate and do some sort of virtual car show to where you actually register your car, you send in photos, and you send in like a modification list. And then the day of the show, they do like a live stream of them scrolling through all the photos of the cars. You can jump on the live stream to watch the judging and stuff. I mean, some people think it's cheesy, but it's like, what else are we going to do?
Yeah.
We can't all congregate at a venue and have an actual car show right now. No. It's just unfortunately not in the cards. We all wish it was, but so the scene is going to evolve in one way or another through this. I don't know how, but all I can say is when this whole shelter in place and quarantine thing has been lifted and everybody thinks that like what's going on right now is behind us, the parking lot meets are going to be unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like cars and coffee, the shows themselves. I think it will return to like the camaraderie of like hanging out in parking lots at night with all your friends and
I think so too.
have the car meets and stuff. So it is evolving right now because it has to, but I think it's going to go back to like OG style, like, and everyone's going to be that much more excited about it because everyone's going to emerge from their quarantine and be like, because that's all I want to do.
Right.
We were talking about it today. All I want to do is go on a cruise with a bunch of my buddies with our cars on a nice summer day and like end up at like a car meet or a car show and we all just hang out and just, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We shake hands. I mean, that's the hardest thing for me, man. You know, like I'm,
Oh yeah.
and Speedy Pete knows. I'm sorry for breaking your knuckles every time I shake your hand.
Yeah.
But like, I just, yeah, I'm like, every time I see someone, it's like my hand's out there. It's like, good to see you, man. And it's like, every time I see someone now, I'm like, yeah, you know.
Yeah, it's strange to walk up to someone and not shake their hand.
And I almost feel like when I'm almost going to have to like put out like an official like apology, like a proactive apology to be like, hey, listen, I'm already sorry for extending my hand to shake your hand when I see you because it's just how we live life up here.
It is.
You know,
Yeah,
it's like you do
It's
you
part of
finalize
life
you
here.
finalize like financial deals with a handshake.
Absolutely.
You know? And so yeah, it's gonna be tough. Once regular life kind of settles back in, it'll be better. But yeah, for right now, we're evolving out of necessity right now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I don't know where the scene's gonna end up. I hope it's gonna be where it was, but stronger. I think people are going to appreciate each other more. I think people are going to I think that camaraderie is going to be stronger.
Right. I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. Hammer and Cosworth asked the question too. He's
the guy that just sent me that W201 artwork.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah. The metal.
He's hilarious. That dude is one of a kind for
Yeah.
sure. He's always sending me like video replies to my stories.
He sent me the video replies.
It's pretty funny. He says, why do airbagged cars get so much attention on Instagram? I don't get it. It's obviously a dry joke. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this is coming from someone who likes static and bagged cars.
Yeah.
I like both.
Yeah.
As we talked about on the last episode, the car calls for what it calls for. At the moment, everything I have is on air suspension, but those cars kind of call for it.
Yeah.
But if I was going to do another 190, I did bag my last 190, but you know as well as I do that my next 190 is going to be an Evo 2 tribute car, and it will be hammered on the ground, but it will be on coilovers.
Yes.
And it's going to be like a real menacing, like carving road car.
Right. Driver.
So I think cool cars should get attention anyway.
Yeah.
Bag, static, hot rod, import, Euro car.
I think a lot of times when a static car hits really hard and people realize it's static, that'll get more attention than a bagged car.
Oh, it absolutely does.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially the Japanese like VIP scene.
Yep.
There's a lot of shoddy craftsmanship going on there too. But some of the ones that are built well, like the T-Demand stuff. Like
Yeah.
T-Demand.
Oh, yeah.
T-Demand. So when I had my Y33, I was looking at the Oni Cayenne upper top hats for my Y33, and this was before there was any U.S. distributors for T-Demand. So
Yeah.
I actually contacted friends in Japan to see what it would cost if I PayPal'd them to purchase the Oni Cayenne upper top hats, the camber adjustable ones, from T-Demand, have them shipped to their house, and what it would cost to have them ship them to me. Essentially having them act as a broker and the whole deal.
Yeah. Yep.
And now there's T-Demand distributors here and you can buy that stuff. But like when I dove down the rabbit hole of my Y33, my Q45, and I did the SEMA conversion and I did the S13 conversion, the suspension conversion, I looked into T-Demand more because I'd kind of discovered them because I was looking for Y33 components and looked at their website and looked through their facility. They've got an actual state-of-the-art facility in Japan, and they're building these crazy front and rear subframes and not just control arms and upper top hats, but like, or coilovers, but full-blown subframes for like these VIP cars to drive on the floor.
Yep.
You've obviously got these guys over there, just like you do here, like taking suspension out and just welding rods in, and it's like like, I mean, I get it. If the car touches the ground, what's the sake of having a half-inch worth of suspension travel when the car touches the ground all the time? I get it, but the car's got to be safe.
Right.
And one could argue then too that the car touching the ground all the time is not safe. I like it.
Yep.
I like a full-body VIP car that touches the ground all the time with a stock body or high radius.
Yep.
High offset wheels, stock body on the ground with a ton of camber. I just like it. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
But I like a chopped and channeled Model A.
I know.
And then I like a 64 Impala Southern California lowrider with all the crazy like etch work and all the chrome and the door handles and the frame rails and the flake paint job, and like I like all of it. I like my likes in like the automotive industry are much like my music taste.
Yeah.
I like so much
Yeah,
stuff.
same here, for sure.
My OBS Ford, I like that thing bone stock.
Yeah.
You know, I want to lower it obviously, but like I just like so much stuff. So yeah, I mostly Shakotan VIP, a hint of Bosozoku mixed in there.
Yeah,
I really like the Bosozoku MO. I really like what the Bosozoku like scene stands for as far as like being different and standing apart and almost like a rebellious kind of like, we're going to modify our cars to look this crazy because you won't make the car look like this.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to build a car that has like 12-foot exhaust pipes, but that's
and a front splitter that's like a diving board that's
10 feet out.
10 feet out. Yeah.
I mean, hey, some of those cars are works of art. They really are.
Absolutely. They all are.
They really are.
Yeah.
But I like hints of all that stuff. But
yeah,
maybe that's a good place to end it, man. I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm hungry too. My stomach's growling. I don't know if you can hear it in the mic. But
Well, mine's growling too. And so if you can't hear it, you're probably hearing all that growling you're hearing is our stomachs.
Yeah.
It's 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, dang.
We're going to eat food. We're going to watch old BMX videos.
Yep.
When we do, I haven't watched some of these VHS tapes in a long, long time. And since we've been riding Plymouth State University more recently, those are the old stomping grounds where I have VHS footage of us riding these spots, and I can't wait. Dude, the bike setups, the style, like my overall style.
Yeah.
Either I had super long hair or I had a shaved head. The bike setups, super heavy, like just old bike setups, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into a quick
too.
BMX, like OG BMX video session. We got some chicken Alfredo ready to go in.
Yes.
I got some root beers in stock in the fridge.
Yep.
Captain Eli's, for those of you who are wondering.
Yep.
That's it. This is episode 10. We've made 10. We're in the double digits now.
Heck yeah, man.
Episode 10. Thank you guys for listening. Check out Corey on Instagram, limitless_Corey,
Yep.
Corey. I am John.Ludwig, JOHN. You can follow the Governor's Club. I still have Purpose and Passion tees. I've still got the Drive More or the Just Drive series, keyrings and wooden rearview mirror hangers available. If you go to the Governor's Club web store link in our Instagram, that'll take you right to the web store, obviously. If you're listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube, there's a link to the web store in the description of this episode. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, just go to Instagram, find us there. And yeah, Night Laser with a Z. It's my day job. Take a look at what I'm doing over there. We're falling on some hard times. The Rising Sea is my music. I'm really hoping to really buckle down and get an EP out. I keep saying that every episode, but I'm hoping it's finally going to transcend and come to fruition. I'm going to look into a Patreon account. I'm really hoping I can like not just start it to feel like an excuse to just start some other social media outlet, but I want to bring value to you guys. I mean, if you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, I want to work hard and cultivate cool stuff, cool content, and cool merchandise for you guys exclusively, you know, just for you guys that want to be on board with this thing. So thank you so much for all the support thus far. Almost 10 years of the Governor's Club.
Yeah.
I'm a year away from like 10 years of the Governor's Club. So next year, 2021, will be fun because I'll do some 10-year anniversary stuff and probably through a Patreon be able to do some like exclusive limited runs of 10-year anniversary stuff too. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Stay well, stay healthy. Until further notice, exercise, safe social distancing, and so on, because we don't want you to get sick. We don't want our parents or grandparents to get sick. Strange times for sure. Thank you guys for listening. Corey and I, we are out. Chicken Alfredo coming soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.